Hi there, I'm Tony Glynn and welcome to the PGG Wrightson Stud Tour. Now this week we're in South Canterbury, we're at Orari Gorge Station. We're hosted by the Peacock family and there's some amazing history here. They're breeding some fairly outstanding Herefords and Romneys and they're running in some very, very steep country. Graham and Rosa Peacock here at Orari Gorge. Beautiful part of the country, but what part of the country are we in, Graham?
We're 15 kilometres from Geraldine, and that's about 30 kilometres from Timaru on the coast in South Canterbury.
Fairly well settled in here. When did you move in?
Well, we started spending more time here after living in England about 1990, and about 7 or 8 years ago we got more fully involved with the property. And I suppose over the last 5 or 6 years we've spent most of the year here in New Zealand rather than dividing our time between here and Yorkshire in England.
Yeah. You're farming over there too?
Yes, but rather a different style of farming. The farm was totally flat apart from riverbanks, so it was all cropping except for the grass on the riverbanks where we grazed cattle. And in 1976 we started a small Hereford stud with stock brought over from Rosa's father's stud down in Southland from Nithdale.
So, Southland?
Yes. Father was probably the first, his father was a lawyer, they were lawyers, but he was the first who went to Cambridge who actually switched from law to agriculture in the 20s and was told because he was a relation, because he'd been a manager on it since 1903 then, Arthur Plackiston, and he was told because he was a relation he'd give half wages, so he told...
Half wages?
Yes.
That's nice.
Yes, so he told the family to lump it, and he brought Nithdale, although Mother did live up here during the war, obviously, when Father was away.
Yeah. And
then Leonard and I were both born after the war, and he went back to Southland, but because of what happened in the war here, David Tripp, his first cousin, was killed in Casino, and David's brother Mowbray was killed in Tunisia, and the death duties from that meant selling the Blue Mountain, and he needed Nithdale to put this place back on its feet.
Yeah.
So he was always involved here, he knew it like the back of his hand, but anyway, that's where he started. The Hereford stud was down in Southland in 1948. One of my brother's sons, Andrew Tripp, took over Nithdale, and he didn't really want the cattle. Apart from the stud, he didn't want the stud. Apart from that, Nithdale had been so well developed that it become more sheep country anyway, and Dad often thought that would happen. So we got more involved out here and brought the stud from Nithdale up to here.
Yeah.
And I'd always loved the cattle as a child and always been interested, so...
You're still spearheading that operation here though, aren't you, with the Herefords?
Trying to.
Yeah.
Yes, with obviously a lot of physical help from Robert, but I certainly...
all the recording and...
Yes, I certainly enjoy all that and keeping in touch.
Yeah.
It's wonderful being out there with the stock and everything else, and I'm lucky to be able to still do it.
Rosa's great-grandfather, Charlie Tripp, came out from England with his friend John Ackland in 1856 and settled at Mount Peel. Finally settling the boundaries of the two stations with a toss of the coin, the property is now run by Rosa's son, Robert. Robert Peacock, managing Orari Gorge here. When did you start, Robert?
About 1999 as a commercial stock manager underneath the previous manager, Ian Dent.
Yep.
Before that, I schooled in England, grew up there, and I did a year working here at Orari Gorge straight out of school, and just basically loved the place. Yeah, loved the hills and the sheep and the social life, and went back to England and did a degree in agriculture with honours in animal production, and then I came straight back here as soon as I'd finished. I did a postgrad at Lincoln for a year, then I did a bit of work on other farms in the Hawke's Bay and places, a bit more travel,
yeah,
and then here in '99 and been here full time ever since.
And a family man?
Yes, yeah, no, very lucky there. Got Alex and the two kiddies, and number 3 due pretty much straight after the bull sale. So,
oh yeah, hopefully not on the bull sale day.
No, hopefully a couple of weeks after.
Yeah, and the wee fella, he's going to be a farmer.
Yeah, Charlie and Susanna, they're both very keen on the farm. They love coming with Dad in the truck.
Yeah. We've had a good look around the place today, and it's a big place.
Yes, it's about 10,000 acres, 4,300 hectares, running about 22,000 stock units, so keeps us busy.
Yeah.
And then the stud is obviously included in that. We've got a Hereford stud and a Romney stud and a Romtex stud. Running about just over 8,000 breeding ewes, nearly 700 cows, including in-calf heifers, and 1,550 hinds, including pregnant 2-year-old hinds.
Yeah.
And we finish pretty much all the stock ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's your sort of ratio of contour here?
We've got some quite good fertile river flats, probably about 10% of the property. About another 10 to 15% is sort of rolling downs, sort of lower hill, a lot of which can be cultivated if we need to. But we are at least 75% is quite steep tussock country. It's pretty good country, but it is steep, and we have a pretty good climate with the summer rain, but we can catch the snow in the winters as well. The Hereford stud is very much although it is my passion, it's very much my mother's passion, and we moved the stud up in its entirety from Nithdale, my grandfather's farm, in 1991, and they've loved it up here. Yeah, they're sort of out in the hills. They winter with the commercial cows, so we've got a mob of about 400 mixed age cows, sort of winter around the tussock country up to sort of 3,500 feet, and they love it up there. Basically just trying to breed bulls and cows that are sort of able to look after themselves and produce the goods each year. So balanced traits, sort of growth and muscle, survivability.
So you've got sheep, deer, and a lot of cattle here. How do they cattle fit into your farming program?
Well, the cows are very much a pasture management tool as much as a beef production unit. They spend a lot of time basically rotating around, cleaning up second-rate tucker, following other stock classes such as the lambs or fawns, basically improving the quality for the rest of the season. So, yeah, I mean, we're not trying to produce big weaners for the calf market. We finish all our own steers and heifers, and so we just make the cows work for a living, and then at weaning, all the cows go out onto the hill country.
Yeah.
And so from April through to September, they're out in the tussocks, and through that summer period, they've been preparing the pastures for the calves to be weaned onto, and then the calves keep growing, and we're getting them up to sort of 400 or 500 kilos by October, November, which is quite important because the bulls obviously need to keep growing, and despite the genetics and what we tell people about how good the genetics are, people do like buying big bulls.
Recently, Robert, we were here for the field day with beef and lamb. That was well attended.
Yes, yeah, it was a good turnout. It was run by Beef and Lamb New Zealand in conjunction with the Australian breed plan, explaining what breeding values are, how they come about, and how commercial farmers can use them to their best advantage when they're selecting which bulls to buy. And it is really important. We've got these figures, the stud breeders use them. It is important that the commercial breeders know how to use them, and they don't just get bamboozled and just buy the biggest bull on sale day.
Yeah.
And it was a good turnout of stock agents as well, so that was good to see because they hold a lot of say in which bulls certain clients buy, and it was good to see that they were willing to learn, and so they can help explain it to other beef breeders.
Yeah. And
because we're comfortable with the sires that we're using in the commercial herd, they're all our own bred commercials. We're then selling, although they're unrecorded commercial bulls, we are selling them to the dairy industry.
Yeah.
It is possible to produce good beef cattle that are also good calving ease and moderate birth weights, and so they are suitable for both the beef and the dairy industry.
Well, the people who buy our bulls down at the Grampians and Glen Lyon, they keep coming back every year, and they're pretty pleased with what they're getting. They say the bulls last longer than they used to do, which isn't very good for the turnover, but as far as we're concerned, as long as they're happy with what they're getting from us, and they do the job for a number of years. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And our southern clients have been wonderful the way they've kept going and we've
Followed the
kept
stud.
in touch. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Grant, we're here in the Hokonui Hills just out of Mandeville. You guys are running a few Herefords here?
Yep, no, we've been running Herefords all my life, and grandfather bought the property in 1954. Yeah, they've been running Herefords ever since, and yeah, the Nithsdale breed's been a big part of our Hereford herd.
How many stock units here?
There's about 25,000 between 3 properties, and 750 breeding cows, which Hereford are the predominant breed.
There's a lot of good Hereford breeders out there, Robert. Why Orari Gorge?
Way bit to do with tradition, probably. My late grandfather bought, I think, the first bulls Charlie Tripp, the late Charlie Tripp ever sold, which was originally the Nithsdale Stud, which is now Orari Gorge, and it was in Kaiwera, which is just the other side of the Matara River from where we are. And yeah, they've worked very, very well for us over the years, and we can't fault them.
So you're getting some fairly heavy calves on the ground there?
Yep, we try and aim to fatten 95% before the second winter, and yeah, usually average about 280 kgs.
So 750 cows, you must have a lot of cattle on all up.
Yep, this year will be the first year we've ever had to quit some 15-month cattle. Weighed them up last week, and yeah, we're very happy with the weights, and yeah, they headed away to Central Otago of all places.
So what are the key objectives in your breeding program, Robert?
Well, at the end of the day, we're our own biggest client. We're using over 100 ram hoggets each year, and then those ram hoggets are offered for sale as tutus along with others. We started that in 1982. The manager Ian Dent wasn't happy with the performance they were getting from the sheep back then.
Just breeding Romneys?
Yeah, just Romneys. Everything was fully performance recorded, but yeah, it wasn't a registered stud, so we didn't have to conform to the more traditional Romney types.
Yeah.
We screened in our best commercial two-tooths, and if they kept producing twins and met the other criteria, they stayed in the flock. We sourced quite a lot of North Island genetics and set the stud up from there.
So the technology's moved on a long way now on the stud side of things. A lot of testing going on here, isn't there?
We probably record as many traits as any other stud in the country, if not more. The usual traits like the fertility, the growth, the survival, the meat, we've been very keen on. We eye muscle scan every ram lamb, and we've also been CT scanning for a few years, which is quite expensive, but it does give a lot more accuracy to the meat yield of the rams compared to the ultrasound.
Now, I understand you've been working in closely with ag research.
Been quite keen to sort of push the boundaries and to test for things that other people haven't been testing for, so there's been a lot of data collection. The last 3 years we've weighed and body condition scored every stud ewe on the property 4 times each year, at mating, at pregnancy scanning, at lambing and weaning, and then we've monitored how they've held on to their condition over the winter and how that is related to their lamb production, their scanning percentage, their lamb survivability, all those traits.
Still keeping a close eye on the wall?
We fleece weigh every ewe hogget and every ram hogget every year. We shear them at weaning, and then we fleece weigh them at 12 months of age. You're very hot on black spots and anything like that. They're automatically culled. Doesn't matter how good they are at other things. I mean, it's like a lot of traits, really. You don't have to be the best at everything, but anything that's struggling on any one trait will be culled.
Yeah.
And, just try and go for a good balance of traits.
Yeah. Jim Lawson farming here north of Dunedin. Whereabouts are we, Jim?
We're about 25 k's north of Dunedin, just inland from State Highway 1, and we run from about 900 feet to probably 1,200 feet, the very highest point on the property, right down to sea level, which is directly behind us, and you can just see the houses of Wakwati in the distance there.
Yep. So Jim, those Orari Gorge Romneys, how's that tying in with your program with the Perindales?
We run a Romney Perindale cross here, which for all intents and purposes is a Romdale, but we don't buy Romdale rams.
Yeah.
We buy from what we think are the best Perindale and Romney, or as good a Perindale and Romney sources as we can get them, and then we draft the ewes up pre-tup, and to most Perindale type go to the Romney and vice versa.
And now you're involved with Farm IQ. Can you tell us a little bit about Farm IQ?
There are 6 farm IQ properties that have been identified to be used as monitor farms, if that's the word, best description of them, to try and improve and innovate farmers into some forward-looking ideas, and a lot of that's capturing data. These ewes that you can see behind us, they're all EID tagged, and we just weighed them the other day, and compared to where we used to be 2 or 3 years ago.
So with the work with the EID, might you give you a bit of an appreciation for all the work they're doing at places like Orari Gorge, where you get the Romney rams?
Absolutely, and I know they are big data collectors. They've been into SIL and whatever for years, and that's just going to flow through to us, really.
Marty Dean's here at Herefords Station. Whereabouts is Herefords, Marty?
Herefords about 10 k's out of Middlemarch, heading back towards the coast of Dunedin. It's just off the top of the Strathtorrey Plain. Herefords consists of 6,300 hectares. Of that, 5,000 is arable land that we cultivate and use. We only get between 450 and 550 millimetres of rain, so it's not a great rainfall here, so we've got to conserve everything we get and go from there. So we're sort of below the snow level. If we do get snow here, it's only lays till probably lunchtime. Sometimes we don't actually get days of snow as such here, but generally throughout the winter we're pretty dry underfoot. It's not actually a wet climate as far as that goes. We have quite a dry winter as such. So it is challenging. The drought is the dry seasons, which we get every year, but it's the length of how long we get dry is the one that either crucifies us or we can handle it.
And you like these Romney Texel ewes?
Yeah, we went to Romney Texels mainly because of what we were just sort of said with the moisture, that sometimes we have a feast and sometimes we have a famine. We 22,000 Romney Texel ewes and
22,000.
Yeah, and I found that the Romney Texel ewes were really be able to handle an abundance of tucker, and then they could sort of as good as live off a smell of an oily rag when we dried out. And when I mean dried out, it does really dry out here. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We get a real dust bowl through here and goes from there. So that's why we opted for that. And we're very conscious of our meat yields and bits and pieces, and we find that we are getting very good yields out of our Romney Texels. So that's why we've gone down that line. We did have difficulty for a starter. Romney Texels finding probably the true and well recorded Romney Texel ram source, and that's why we've gone to Orari Gorge. We were invited there to an open day one day, and went and had a look at what they were doing with their commercial flock and with using their stud rams in the commercial flock, and I felt that was definitely where I wanted to be heading, and they were chasing the same traits as what I was after, and were true and actually measuring what I was wanting. So that's why I've been purchasing rams off them, and we are very conscious of our SIL and SIL Ace records, and we were chasing them with our Romney Texels, especially with our Texels, of where rams are coming from. And the fertility was a main one too that I chased. I was very concerned with some of the Texels that were getting bred off in New Zealand were not great in the fertility side of things. So we have found that has increased in the way through, and we are an average scanning around that 72, 75%, and depending on the weather conditions here, as you can see, it's quite exposed, and if it does come through a bit of a storm or wind at lambing time, it does knock us around a wee bit. We are getting good results from it, and as I say, it's a check you get for the freezing company that keeps us all in line just now. So I think we have got the ideal package and what we're being offered from Orari Gorge. We're very impressed with what we're getting.
So Robert, what's the story with the Romtex?
The Romtex we started about 5 years ago. There was a few people around the country sort of looking for high meat yields, especially with companies like Alliance starting to pay a bonus for it. Some people were selling Romtex rams already, and I felt that we could possibly do it a bit better. So we screened in some of our most fertile stud Romney ewes, all fully recorded, and spent a bit of time trying to source the appropriate Texel rams to put them to. And so we didn't start off with many, we just had to test the water. And the last few years things have proved pretty popular. So we've had to screen in some of our best commercial ewes and expand the stud that way. Sill doesn't like you doing that because it doesn't have any family history, so the breeding values tend to suffer. It tends to be conservative with what breeding values it'll give you. So we screened in a lot more than we needed, and then we've culled quite heavily on performance. There's another trait we've been looking for with AgResearch is the Kala saliva test, which is there's a secretion in the saliva which some sheep do or don't produce, and some of them produce more than others, and it basically prevents the worm larvae that they ingest off the pasture from developing into adulthood, so that the worms never actually bother the sheep, and they never develop and they never lay eggs. So basically some people who breed for resistance might find that the energy the sheep is putting into fighting the worms is costing them production. I mean, they're only ingesting a certain amount of grass, they can only partition it a certain number of ways, and if they're spending a lot of energy fighting worms, they don't have much left for growth or for wool. They found quite strong links with lower worm counts, with lower DAG scores, and greater production.
Yeah, that's another thing you're doing here with the DAGs.
Yes, we've been quite keen on the DAG scoring. We do all our own crutching, and with 8,000 ewes and fattening our own lambs, the less dagging we have to do, better. And we have found it really quite heritable. I mean, some of those high breeding value DAG score rams, they really do have a difference in their progeny compared to some of the other rams. Everything, doesn't matter how good the figures are, they've got to perform, produce the goods and keep producing.
Callum done it with PGG Wrightson's. You're South Canterbury, fairly big area.
Yeah, no, I look after it from the Waitaki River to the Waimak. It's a big area. There's servicing about 130 clients through rams and bulls. Looking after the stud breeders to support the commercial industry.
Now here at Orari Gorge today, good clients of yours?
Yeah, Orari Gorge are good clients. Obviously I've been here 4 years and involved with their sale, their bull sale in particular that we have early June. We generally offer 30 to 35 2-year-old Hereford bulls. They're very, very good clients of ours, yes.
And in particular, what do you like about the Orari Gorge Herefords?
Orari Gorge, particularly when we're going out to buy sires and so forth, we always spend the money and buy the best we can. I think the big thing at Orari Gorge is that it's a large commercial operation, and there's a lot of selection pressure there with the stud. They've got to survive on the hill. Robert does everything well, whether it be performance recording, but most of all they've got to look the part as well.
And not too far away from the bull sale now, brother?
No, the bull sale's in June each year. It's always the Wednesday straight after Queen's birthday weekend. So it's got about 34 bulls being offered this year, and so that's from 95 bulls were weaned, and they all go through the winter as one mob, and in October we do the muscle scanning, and then we'll cull the bottom sort of third, about 30. But I mean the years of selection and the genetics are there, and I mean it's partly the growth and it's partly the sort of the deep body and the dark coats that we've been selected for, and the muscle, and it all sort of comes together.
Your father would be very pleased to see you carrying on doing what you're doing, and how would you like to see the future here?
Well, no, I'd like to think, Father was very happy to see the stud up here. Well, I think that's up to Robert.
Yeah.
He's determined to keep it going, but I can obviously physically not do so much. But we've got a good team out there, and it is very much up to him. A stud is a personal thing. I was lucky to be able to give the chance to keep it going, so the next generation, it's up to them.
Yeah. For more information on the PGG Wrightson Stud Tour, visit ruraltv.co.nz and come and join us on Facebook.